Okay, I'm not sure why it's not telling me that the archiving has started. Okay. All right, well, welcome to our second popular STEM talk this season. We're so happy to have Pam. She and her collaborator have written an entire book about the beautiful state of Georgia. And in fact, I picked up a copy for myself and for my mother. Yes, which I'm going to give to her when we go to Germany next year. Because they come here to visit occasionally and also met Pam. And of course, since they're interested in geology and paleontology, they've already been to some of these places. So without further ado, let's give Pam a warm welcome and get started with the talk.
Thank you. It's such an honor to see so many of my colleagues, fellow professors, and my wonderful students here with us today. We can go ahead with the first slide. We'll be talking about the Roadside Geology of Georgia, a book I spent about 9 years writing. Let me just stand up here, or?
No, you can stand pretty much wherever you want. Okay. The audio was kind of hard to hear.
All right. Check box. So anyway, what's the book about? It's a book that talks about the science and the history behind the scenery as you drive around the state. It's a good reference. A lot of people told me they had to get 2 copies, one for their car, even a local car, but it's going to go around with them and get dirty and tattered. And then one copy to keep in the house, so they're thinking, well, where do you think we should go this weekend? Got some spare time. Now, Mountain Press has a series of books called Roadside Geology, state name, and there are 25 of them written so far, and there are only 3 or 4 of them in the works. So it is part of the recognized series, and it's useful for everybody. It's not written for scientists, it's perfectly written for the layman. For the educated guy next door to sell insurance, who might like to go out to a park or go hiking or take the kids to places and learn a little bit about something going on while they're there. And there's 35 road guides through the state. I'll be showing a map, and it's 347 pages long. And as you look at it, virtually every page has at least 1 or 2 big pictures. So it's extremely well illustrated. Okay, next. So this is just a map showing the various roads. We've got all major interstates, including some you've probably never seen, like Interstate 59 up in Chattanooga. And basically, it's a fairly thorough coverage of the entire state. Okay, next. All right, so when we look at a map of Georgia with nothing on it except the relief, in other words, the mountains, the topography, what can you see? So this is where the audience is going to say. Pretty flat. Okay, so there's a large area that's pretty flat. You see what's up to here. Mountain range, that's right. This is the Blue Ridge Mountain. We look over here, we see sort of long ridges. And then we see kind of line-looking things. You look really careful and you start to pick out lines. You know, what some of the lines are. Okay, next. Now we can put the physiographic province information onto the relief map, and indeed probably the most prominent thing is the Blue Ridge Mountains, conveniently in blue here, and the valley and ridge, which extends from Alabama up north into New York. The Piedmont, where we are, and the Sea Islands and coastal plains down here, as well as the Appalachian Plateau and the far northwest corner of the state, the Lookout Mountains here. So I know some of you have been to some of these places. Next. So we have the provinces, and each of the provinces differs in type of rock, age of rock, geologic history, and then these linear features I was pointing out, which are false. For the most part, those are false, the kind of false sliding along or pushing together, and currently active faults, but they have just been active in the past. Next. Some of those are shown here. The one in red is called the Brevard Fault Zone. That goes just northwest of the city of Atlanta, basically down the Chattahoochee River Valley. It goes under Lake Lanier and straight on down to the state line. And there are some other faults as well. This shows the Brevard Fault. And then there are these other colored areas in the Piedmont region here called terrain. And a terrain is a body of rock with a distinct geologic history. Some of these were volcanic island chains, such as the Kaolin superterrain. And the yellow here is the Golan in the gold belt. So if you're interested in finding gold, there actually are groups of people who go out on the weekends, gold panning, and they invite anybody along who would like to go free. Typically, they go up around Lake Albany. And we are in the Cumberland terrain here. Some of the other faults, we've got the Tawalaga Fault Zone coming through here near Warm Springs, Rocktown Fault Zone, Goat Rock Fault, and there's just a number of faults probably never heard of because they're not active, but they are there separating rocks of crust that have moved. Probably one of the more prominent ones is the Blue Ridge Thrust Fault through here that separates the Blue Ridge from the Albany Ridge. And we'll hear more about that a little bit later. Now, the cover of the book, as you probably have seen, has a copy of the geologic map of Georgia. Now, each of these colors is a type of rock of different age and different rock types, and they're all keyed into keys and the legends and the map in the book. Next. Now, since we're here in the Atlanta area, I thought I would start with Atlanta. We are sitting basically atop the Eastern Continental Divide. Now, being here at Clarkston campus, the Continental Divide actually runs along the railroad tracks that go right through the middle of Clarkston, just probably a half mile from here. And I know we've talked about this in one of our labs. The reason Atlanta is where it is, and also Clarkston, and also the railroad, because they're following old Indian trails that pass through the region, converging in the area near the state capitol at downtown. Now, the Indians like to go along the high ground so that they don't have to keep getting down and wading through the river all the time. So they sought out the places that were sort of ridges, and you can basically cross the entire state on this ridge that comes right through Clarkston. Now, our state capitol, just a few miles from here, has a dome. You all know this is covered in gold. Might not have thought about it, but it was mined in Florida and brought to Atlanta by a wagon train. Mule-drawn wagon train. Okay. So I'm going to start out talking about the Piedmont and Blue Ridge, but basically, in a nutshell, the rocks here are metamorphic rocks that at one time were sediment and then sedimentary rocks, as well as some volcanic rocks. And they have been intruded by igneous rocks like granite, for example, Stone Mountain. And then I've already pointed out that the mountain goes down a little bit earlier. And there are lots of these things next in the Piedmont region. Stone Mountain, really just a few miles from campus. It's called Monadnock. It is a granite intrusion. It's actually larger than the actual mountain. It's about 6 miles long. West Mountain, because they're near that big. But next slide, you can see some of our students out on a field trip, and they actually made it into the book. That rounded shape of the mountain is because the rock was once very, very deeply under pressure, and as the rocks above eroded away, the rock actually popped off in sheets a couple of inches thick. Now, we take a field trip to this locality on the side of Stone Mountain just about every semester. And one time we went out there and this rock had popped up just from what it had been a couple of months before. And, you know, the students are looking at it. This is called exfoliation. The rock just likes to pop up, sort of peels off like the skin on an onion, basically. And a lot of times after it has popped up and weathered away, it leaves little pits underneath called solution pits. And some of those contain unusual plants and animals, particularly when it rains and the little eggs of the small arthropod hatch. There are also some black spots in the rock that are unusual, fairly rare mineral called tourmaline. And they're surrounded by little white halos because of some unusual chemical reaction. Tourmaline contains boron and also iron magnesium, and it's like sucks the iron magnesium out of the surrounding rock, leaving that little bleached halo. So whenever we see this sort of tourmaline pods in a rock, we know it's from Stone Mountain. There's no other place known. And so we divided them to Savannah lots to help them figure out what kind of rock type is in their city hall, because they didn't know. They thought it was bad. Could I tell them where it's from? And the minute I saw this, I knew exactly what it was. Mine in Stone Mountain. What do you know? My phone would go off. This is how I yell at our computer, and my telephone goes off. So,
turn off our phone.
yeah. I think it's my co-op is calling me. Bill Witherspoon, because it says burn back on there. He probably feels left out. Next slide. Now, another place that has these solution pits on the top of it is out in the Arabia Mountains. If you've been out to your Stonecrest Mall, you're really just a couple of blocks from there, less than a half mile south. And we took a faculty development trip out there a few years ago, and that's Dr. Susan Pedazzo out there on the top of the mountain. But these solution pits may have been enlarged by Indians because they're a little deeper at a steeper edge than the ones you see at Stone Mountain. And there are similar pits in California in which the Indians brought spring water, put them here and used them for evaporation ponds. And then they got sort of different water chemistry in them than just rainwater. So what we really need to do is get out here with some students and study the water chemistry in these little solution pits and see if it's different than just dry up rainwater. That would be a really cool chemistry project. And one reason it might be neat is because these pools contain rare, unique plant communities. The red is called Diamorpha. It's a little sort of a succulent plant that blooms in the spring and has red leaves. The ones back here have something called the black-spored quillwort, which is on the rare and endangered plant list. And these are only found within about 60 miles of Stone Mountain or maybe Mountain area. So is there something unique in the water that these unusual plants are attracted to? You know, maybe they've been putting spring water in there for hundreds of years before the settlers came, and maybe it's concentrated in, who knows, some weird rare element. We'll have to go out there and check. Next. And we've been out with groups of faculty. We've done some student field trips out there. And a couple of years ago, we had a partnership going with some of the science faculty at Arabia Mountain High School. So there are lots of opportunities to go out there. It's usually something you have to do outside of class unless you're maybe at the Caden campus, which is closer. You know, I'm probably 20 miles from here, but not far. Next. Now, Arabia Mountain is not granite like Stone Mountain. It is a stripy layered rock called gneiss. But it's an unusual gneiss because it's been partially melted. It's been heated to the point that in some places you've got these kind of white-looking patches that look like they've squirted and oozed through the rest of that. So partially melted gneiss is called a migmatite. And we know it used to be a sedimentary rock because of these brown layers, which are little tiny garnets. So there's something in sediment that metamorphoses to make garnet-rich layers. Yes, Pamela?
I think it's partially melted.
Deep burial and heating. The temperature gets hotter as you go down. And terrains were kind of slamming into North America. Maybe they were islands the size of Cuba or Madagascar or New Zealand or Japan or something, and they just kind of volcanic and they slam up on top. Kind of like taking one batch of books and putting it up on another one, and all of a sudden it gets so deep and it's so hot that it starts melting. Yeah. Next. Good question. Now, another granite body, the largest one in the state, is out near Elberton. Now, for reference, here's Lawrenceville in I-85, Athens. So just down a little bit east of Athens, near Watsonville Bridge State Park, the old covered bridge, is the Elberton Granite. And the terrain over here pushed up over top of this area, just like I was demonstrating. And this is an area that completely melted, not just partially, but completely melted to form a granite. Okay? And out there you can find some unique touristy attractions. What's that? It looks like Stonehenge or something. It's like George's little Stonehenge. It's called the George Guidestone. And they were erected by an anonymous group of donors, and they've got like 12 rules for mankind written in, about a dozen different languages up here in the script of all sorts of, I don't know what, Arabic, Hebrew, and Philippine, and Japanese, and whatever, something I can't read. And I guess we need to all go out there and find out what they say, what we're supposed to be doing. Love one another, take care of nature, or whatever. And this is what the Elberton Granite looks like. And then this guy here is the first statue ever carved out of the Elberton Granite. It was a memorial to the Confederate war dead. But the people in the town of Elberton didn't really like him. He's not that cute. I probably couldn't do that well if it was me carving something. So the people out there said he looked like between a Pennsylvania Dutchman and a hippopotamus. They didn't like him. So in the middle of the night, they put a rope around his neck and pulled him down and carried him in the town square. And he was just dug up about 5 years ago and put on display in the Elberton Granite Museum. But even there, if you look carefully, he's laying in some sort of little coffin-like cage. They did not stand him back upright. The poor dishonored Dutchman is just kind of lying in state there in the museum. Okay, next. Stories about all the places in the state. Now this is out in that general vicinity, a little bit southeast of there. It's a place called Graves Mountain that is a sort of nationally known mineral collecting locality. These black crystals are rutile, which is a titanium-bearing mineral, and the whole area has been mined. Kyanite, which is used in high-temperature ceramics, but there's a large pyrite percentage in the rock, and so all the rainwater that runs off of it is very, very acid. So it was sort of an environmental disaster area because of acid runoff. But they still open it twice a year, basically in October and April, for mineral collectors to go in and climb around. There's probably some in that picture, very tiny. I'm having trouble seeing them, but this is a day that it's open for mineral collectors to go and exploring all over the place. Okay, next. Now, to switch up to the Blue Ridge, some of the highlights of the Blue Ridge Mountains are Rocktown Falls, the highest point in the state. Not quite a mile high, but close to 5,000 feet. And gold mines in the gold belt, as well as copper mines. We've got pictures of some copper mining areas, marble quarries, and waterfalls. Next. This is view from Rocktown Falls. Now, if you go to Cumberland, who's been to Cumberland? Okay, they just had their gold rush days earlier this month, but the old courthouse in the square in the middle of town is now the Gold Museum. And there are a number of places around. There are 2 gold mines where you can go and pan for gold, little gold pans. And you put water in, and they show you what to do. And the black is heavy metals, things like rutile and ilmenite and some other kinds of things. And the gold is right there along the edge, a little bit more dense, and then this is quartz and some of the more common, lighter density things. But they show you just how to lay the little gold pan to separate the gold, and then you take an eyedropper and you pick it up. And you can actually get enough to make some money now that gold is close to $1,000 an ounce. So you can probably spend a weekend and get $1,000. Yeah, that's all it goes. There's a fellow named Rob Kelly that runs the Elberton Gold Canyon, and he'll take you out and show you everything you need to do. And if you go up, north of LJ, up 575, and whatever state road it turns into, you get to the Ducktown, Tennessee, Copper Hill mining district. Now, back in 1976, when I was a junior and in geology field camp, we went up here, and the whole place was this orange, desolate moonscape, nothing growing on it. What the people had done was in mining and smelting the copper, they had cut all the trees down to burn, to run the smelters, and then the fumes that came off of that had a lot of sulfur in it, and so it made acid rain. So between cutting of trees and acid rain, it was just a complete wasteland for about 20 miles across. And they have preserved this just over the state line in Tennessee. And near Cape, a little bit south of LJ, is the Murphy Marble Mining District. This is the Cape House, so that's one of the early settlers, and this is one of the marble quarries, which they open a couple of times a year for the tourists to go in, and you can see the little walkways where you can go down in there too. Really good. And the marble comes out in a number of different colors, all from Georgia, white, gray, pink, and so forth. And this is one of the floors in the Emory University Carlos Museum. And be sure everybody that comes in signs the sign-in sheet, at least on your way out, so that the instructor knows you were here and you get the credit. Next. Now, as far as tourist destinations in the Blue Ridge, this is Amicalola Falls. This is a wonderful time of year to go. Because right about now you can go up to the Lanago, which is very near Amicalola Falls, and you can go to Pumpkin Farm, which is virtually across the street from this, and look at acres of pumpkins all laid out, and it's perfect to go early on Halloween. But this is an extremely high waterfall. Next picture, as seen from the top, looking to the south, you can kind of see what a drop-off it is. It's actually one of the highest cascading waterfalls east of the Mississippi and 4 times the height of Niagara Falls. Okay, it's only 165 feet. We're at 729. We have got Niagara Falls beat by quite a bit. Anybody ever been to Niagara Falls? Stand on the edge and you look off and it's like, oh my God. This is like, oh my God. All the trees are in the way and the river's not quite as big. And if you hike the Appalachian Trail, this is where you walk up to Springer Mountain starting the southern end of the trail. Next. A lot of hikers know this area. Now, another fun place to go to the Blue Ridge is Fort Mountain. So it's toward the western side, and the mountain has this mysterious stone wall basically ringing the top of the mountain. And there are Indian legends saying that this is from a time before the Indians came, when somebody else was here, round-eyed people, and you know, are they from outer space, is this part of ancient alien places? Probably not. It's probably more likely to be a feature that formed during the last ice age from freezing and thawing and downslope movement of rock. But it's given a lot of debate and mystery and something to think about when you go up there. Does it look man-made or not? Next. And let's see, this is the same general area. Let's see what we've got. Here's Albany, the road where the Apple Festival is. The monument is off to the right. Cape marble mining is in here. But along in this general area is where you find Georgia's state mineral. Anybody know the name of it? It looks a lot like it, but this is starlight. Good guess. I'm sure it's fairly closely related because it's got some of the same. Starlight is sort of shaped like little cough drops, and they've intergrown to make little crosses. So they're kind of neat looking. They're called them fairy crosses sometimes. You sell them in some of the tourist shops. Okay? And has anybody ever been to Sprewell, Bluff? This is down in the southwestern Piedmont. If you remember the relief map, and there were some falls that went down in the western part of the state near Columbus. Well, this is probably where Honey Boo Boo goes to the beach. This is right along the Flint River, and I had never been to Sprewell, Bluff, and so I knew I had to research for the book. And went back there, and there's a view, and you can see mountains because there are some ridges of the politics. We followed a little gravel road into the woods, down the side of the bluff, and I thought, oh Lord, I'm in the middle of nowhere. You know, what have I got myself into? And I got down there, there were like 200 cars, people all over the place, got some real rock diving, everybody's all in the water, and they got the babies out in the boats, and it's like, oh my God, it's just a redneck Riviera. It's a fun place, and nobody even knew it was there. You know, I didn't. It was marvelous. I'll have to deal with the bathing suit next time. I'll warn you. Okay, so that takes us out of Piedmont Blue Ridge, and then this line between Columbus, Macon, and Augusta is called the Falls line. It doesn't have to do with falls, it has to do with waterfalls, which we can see a little bit here at Columbus along the river walk. What river is it that goes through Columbus? Chattahoochee. So the Chattahoochee kind of comes down through here by Atlanta, hits the state line, makes a left-hand turn, and takes us down toward the Appalachian Coast. So right here we're standing alone, looking at the Chattahoochee. Now, up until about a year ago, there was an Eagle and Phoenix dam through here, so they could build it to harness water power to run textile mills and things back in the 1800s. But they tore it out last year to turn it back into the natural state, which is a whitewater kayaking place now. The environmentalists wanted to make it much more like natural, and a lot of them like to go kayaking, apparently. So they have turned the original rocky falls into a kayaking thing, and they fixed it with concrete so there's no places where you can get yourself wedged under a rock, and hopefully to keep people from getting hurt. But at this point, the coastal plain sediment begins to overlap the rock, and this is what we've got right here. So underneath here is Piedmont-type hard rock, nitrogen and granite and things, and then the green and pink and yellow and orange colors are coastal plain sediment. That's like sand and mud and limestone that are piled up from basically the age of the dinosaurs up to the present, the oldest on the bottom and the youngest on the top. So when we look at the state geologic map, the older dinosaur era rocks are right up here in the green near the fall line, and everything gets younger as you come to the east. Now this patch over here between Cordele and Albany basically is underlain by limestone. And that's the Radium Springs is. We're going to come back to that in a minute. So let's see what else I've got. Okay, the coastal plain is relatively flat. Not everywhere, but it's a very large agricultural area. And this is the old seafloor. The ocean came in just about up to the fall line, and then where the seas lapped back and forth and deposited sediment, it just made everything really, really flat. Okay, next, we'll take a look at some of the fossils. can find in the coastal plain, down south of Macon near Perry, you can find scallop shells in the limestone. You can find little turritella snail shells, sand dollars, that's the end of the sand dollar there. Here's a sand dollar, this is from Sandersville, over between Macon and Milledgeville, on the Chattahoochee River near Fort Gaines, a little bit farther south than we were looking. Beautiful snails and various types of clams and things. And then the one over here in the lower left is a silicified coral. You can see the coral structure here has been replaced by silica. So another chemistry thing. I'm glad we've got some chemistry. Okay. As well as Georgia State fossils and shark teeth. And there are plenty of those to be found anywhere from the Perry area on down the coast. And you can tell the fossil shark teeth because they tend to be gray or black, whereas the modern ones be kind of white. And you can actually find these on the beach at Tiny Island and some of the other beaches that have been renourished because they dredge offshore down into some of the older sediments and they dredge the rivers, make them a little bit deeper. I'm sure you've heard about deepening the Port of Savannah in the news over the past year. So they scoop all that out and they dump it on the beach because the beach wants to erode back to its own as sea level rising. And so we can find shark teeth like this that go on the beach at Tiny Island and probably the other ones as well. And not just sharks, but we've got this guy. Has anybody ever been to Georgia Southern? If you're ever thinking of being down that direction as you go to Savannah, that's good. This is the Georgia Southern University Museum. So you go to the campus, you find the map, go in, take a look. They've got a very unique guy here. It's a whale of Eocene age, which means it's about 50 million years ago. It's not that old. But it's very unique because it has hind legs. Now today, whales don't have legs. But back in the Eocene, they did. There's a missing link between the ancestral whale, which was a lot more like a hippopotamus, that most of its time in the water, and the modern whale, which is a mammal, not a fish. So, excuse me. Georgia cetus means whale from Georgia. Vogel ensis. What is Vogel? You hear about it in the news, the building something there. The building a nuclear power plant. We already have a nuclear power plant at Vogel. Georgia Power is expanding that, putting in a couple more reactors. When they were originally building it, they dug this up at Plant Vogel. And that was about 20 years ago. So I don't know what they're digging up now, but I'm sure there's some really cool things that we can get in and take a look. Next. Now, if you are in the Brunswick, Savannah area, along the coast, but behind the islands and the salt marsh, they regularly dig up large Pleistocene Ice Age mammals. They find woolly mammoths, and they find this thing. I know it looks like a bear, but it's a giant ground sloth that's about 10 feet tall, massive thing, called Migmatite. Now, this is on display at the Keller Science Museum. Has anybody ever been there? You get credit if you go there. That is in Cartersville. So you get on I-75, you go north so you get to Cartersville, and you can see it from the interstate. It's very, very easy to find. And they have a huge display of Georgia minerals and rocks and fossils, and the best display of massive skeletons like this I've seen, even rather than the Smithsonian. It's definitely worth a trip. Next. Okay, another really cool place to go in the coastal plain is Georgia's Little Grand Canyon. This is called Providence Canyon, and it was formed due to poor farming practices in the 1800s. Now, what we're looking at here is not rock like in the real Grand Canyon, but it's clay and sand. Now, the white clay is kaolinite with some quartz sand in it, probably something like you might find near the coastline. And then the orange clay has a little bit more iron in it. So it's just clay and sand and it's loose, and you could take a shovel and just dig it out. So they blamed its formation. See, it was not there when they first settled the area in the 1800s, but they blamed it on this poor little old lady that used to throw her dishwater out the back door every night. They said that she caused it, just easily throwing the water out. So really, the poor farming practices, they have fields leading down to the Chattahoochee River, and they would plow down the hill and up the hill. They haven't invented contour plowing yet. And so when it rained, the water would go in the furrows where they plowed, and within 10 years of starting to plow that way here, it just began to erode gullies in people's farms, and they got deeper and deeper. And now it's like a couple 100 feet. That's like an 8-story building, so I'd say about 300 feet or something. And the boundary of dinosaur extinction, so the dinosaurs lived in the kind of white time, and when we get up into the red, they had gone extinct. So, and it's an irregular boundary because it's too early like that. Okay, so I talked about that white clay. I mentioned it was kaolin. Kaolin is mined. I brought some in the coastal plain between mainly Macon and Milledgeville, Sandersville sort of area. And if you ever watch Honey Boo Boo and you see the trains going by and the big factory looking thing in the background, those are kaolin processing plants with the train where they're hauling in and out. But this is a kaolin mine, and so they're scooping the white clay out, storing it under these sheds in Sandersville. So it's close along the Kaolin River, and a state geologist out there taking a look at it. And kaolin, that you probably never heard of, has a $900 million a year, nearly $1 billion a year impact on the state's economy. Now, when they talk about deepening the port of Savannah for ships to get in, the main mineral export from Georgia is kaolin. Okay, next slide. Yeah, what do we do with it? Yeah, that's the next slide. They used to export it to England, they went to China. So poverty is exactly on the mark, radically. The main use today is in paper coating. Because when we get paper, we see the newsprint, it's kind of brown. And yet all our papers is glossy, pretty white kind of paper. That's because it's got kaolin clay kind of ground up and mixed in with the wood to make paper. So it's fabulous for nice white paper. Added to the rubber in the tires to make them wear longer so they don't wear out every year. They added to plastics so that they're opaque, so that all plastic is clear. They added paint so it covers the wall better. And clay eating? Geophagy. What? Okay, well my students have seen this in the store. If you are in Laconia and you go to Wayfield Foods, downtown Laconia, how many people have seen it? Okay, bunch of you good. Well, and this is a refrigerated case between the raw peanuts and the potatoes. You can buy a bag of kaolin for about $2. And somebody somewhere is eating it. No, there's this other bag down the street, a number of convenience stores and gas stations. You go in and you go up to pay when you buy something. And up there, a little bowl beside the Reese's peanut butter cups beside the register, you can buy a bag of kaolin. So there are a lot of people all over South Cal County that eat this. I've actually bought it at a little store on North Indian Creek, so I don't know if they still sell it.
What's in kaopectate?
Yeah,
right?
it used to be a major ingredient in kaopectate. They say pregnant women crave it. People eat what they call starch, but it's mainly this. It was good in the Depression because it cured hunger and people walked around gnawing on it like you eat an apple. It kept something in your stomach. But unfortunately, it's not good for you because it can absorb the iron out of your system and cause mineral deficiency. Yes, everyone.
You ever tried eating it?
No, but you're welcome. There are people in this room that either have tried it or know someone who regularly eats it in their family. Now, this is fun stuff. Oh, Georgia geology is so much fun. And then 35 million years ago, an asteroid struck the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay area, throwing some of the kaolin mines that are that particular age. They're called Tektites. So they're from, let's see, Dodge County, Shrewsbury County, Dewey County, Washington County. You can find it down in that vicinity. There's a map in the book that says, if you want to go look. If you look it up on eBay, some of them sell for over $1,000 for one piece. So if you can find something, it's not bad. Yeah. Okay.
And there's a question.
Yes. They are rocks that the asteroid meteorite thing hits the ground and it melts the bedrock right there. And it flashes the molten bedrock through the air, cools as it's flying, and it cools so quickly that it becomes a glass. So it looks a little bit like obsidian, but it's kind of green if you hold it to the light. Clear. So there are stones, yes. Yes, molten bedrock that is cooled into a glass. So I invite you to go find something. You have to share one with me if you find more than one. So you know what I'm saying. Next. Oh, wait, we have the Radium Springs.
Yes, okay.
Okay, down near Albany, off the Flint River, is an area called Radium Springs. What is radium? What do we know about radium?
Isn't the element of the very found and it was the first radioactive element found?
Yeah, we know it's radioactive. Good. We know quite a bit about it. So, the water in the limestone has picked up radioactivity, in fact, radium, from some of the minerals that landed in the Piedmont region and were washed out into the sea and got incorporated in the phosphate nodules that are found in and with the limestone. The groundwater dissolves it out of the phosphate nodules and into the cavern system in the limestone down near Albany and Cordele. Thanks for coming. And so the water that comes out of these springs is radioactive. This is called a blue hole spring. It's one of the largest. It puts out 70,000 gallons per minute. It's just astounding. And back in the 1920s, they built a resort so that you could go and lay and soak up the radiation in the water. Doesn't that sound horrible? Mm-hmm. It was believed to have healing properties, and I know today there are some things where they might treat cancer by giving you radiation. So, I mean, maybe it's not that far-fetched, but I don't think I'd want to get it. Mm-hmm. No, probably not. Now. All right, go ahead and talk about the islands along the coast. They're called the Sea Islands. They range from Ivy Island off Savannah, which you can drive to by car, down to St. Simons you can get to by car, as well as Jekyll. The others you have to take a ferry or a boat to get to. Okay, that's an aerial satellite image. And we'll concentrate on the ones you can get to by car. Ivy Island, you just drive east out on Route 80 through the salt marsh, which looks like this. If it's high tide, the water comes up, the water goes down at low tide, and you can see the mud. And inland of here, this yellow area is an old barrier island. So the current island is out here on the coast, but there are a series of 5 or 6 islands inland from the present island that formed in the last 2 million years when sea level was a lot higher between the glaciations, and the glaciers have melted completely.
Well, yeah, maybe we can wrap it up in a few minutes, because I say this too. Your voice is not going to... So there are various places where the islands are eroding, and they put rocks, and they put fences up to help catch the sand to build the dunes back up next. The various sorts of ripple marks and sedimentary structures can go on ahead next. And there are burrows and various kinds of things on the beach, and this one's surrounded by what looks like chocolate sprinkles, but I don't recommend you do them. You can guess what they are. Next. Some sort of droppings.
Yeah, they're droppings. St. Simon's Island was a lighthouse, and again, the stones where the hurricane came through in the 60s, and they had to put the rocks up and also pour deposition. The longshore drift goes from north to south. So, see the next slide. This is the, on the left, the northern end is called Boneyard Beach. The sea is encroaching into the forest. And saltwater kills the trees until they fall down on the beach. That's why they call it boneyard. But if you go to the southern end where it's depositing sand, back in the 1980s, the beach was planted here by the trees and houses. Now there's about a half mile of beach built out in sand deposition. Now Cumberland Island, you have to take a ferry to, but that's the island that has the wild horses. And there are also sand dunes coming in parts with the horses that mess up the ecology of the island. That's next. And here's some of those inland barrier islands. Okeechobee Swamp is back here. Next. Can't talk about everything. But the swamp is an old marsh area that got blocked by a sandbar, and the rivers are kind of blocked up behind it. And the sand ridge in front of it is an old barrier island about 2 years old called Trail Ridge, and this is where peat is accumulating and will eventually form coal. Next, just kind of quickly.
Yeah.
Up to the Valley Ridge, folded salted rocks. Next. And beautiful scenery. They're looking across from Lookout Mountain to Pigeon Mountain. Next. Rocktown has a beautiful rock column for a lot of people to climb. Features that formed when the trees were not there and the area was whipped by wind and freezing temperature in the last ice age. Next. There's a pedestal rock that's me at Lookout Mountain. Okay, next. Rock there is a good place where you can go in and walk around and see all sorts of features, house-sized blocks of rocks right in the park on the shale there underneath. Next. Cloudland Canyon, a beautiful state park, well worth the trip. About 2 hours from here in the northwest corner. Now on November 9th, the geology group is going to take a bus up there. Here's where we went up in 2011. And we've got Tom Backer and Gerald Pollock and Rob, everybody's seen us. They hike down to the bottom of the canyon. Very nice walk. So you need to go on the trip breakers trail. But no. Just some more stuff about Cloudland Canyon. Next. Bunch of major falls. Here's that Blue Ridge Falls where the Blue Ridge rocks were pushed over sedimentary rocks for Valley Ridge. Next. Some details of the structure showing all the faults in one unit being pushed up on another. You can check it out in more detail in the book. Next. And if you like to go caving, there are a number of caves up in the area. Next. And fossil collecting. This is our group fossil collecting 2 years ago. Steve Fitzpatrick, John Anderson, and bunches of our students, and they're finding fossil ferns and crinoids and brachiopods and all sorts of things on the trip. So we had a ball. It was great. Got 55 persons go up there in about 2 weeks. Trilobites, old tree trunks, all kinds of new fossils. Next. Okay, then there's our provinces, just sort of a final recap. Want to have anything else?
Let's see. This thing here, and where did you go? Yeah. The website.
Okay, so you can visit us at georgiarocks.us for my co-author Bill Witherspoon does some talks in state parks around the state. And we are also on Facebook. If you type in Roadside Geology Georgia, it should come up. So it'd be great if y'all go on and like us. I think there's one more picture.
Yeah, I think that's
Bill sitting.
yeah.
Rock Quarries isn't just all high 85 as you're driving up on Cedar Road. Trail here. Yeah, like,
I was always wondering what's behind there. Is that Vulcan? Hey, there's one more. Yeah, I think that's the final slide.
Anyway, if anybody interested in a copy of the book,
And you can hang around a little longer, but it's just, I have to pack up.
I've got copies of the book, they're $24, and I can attach the credit card if anybody wants one, so we can